What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns with you. It's a new era. Officially, we are into the podcast's second general manager and third head coach.
Really? That's it?
Yeah. Well, since the podcast started.
Well, since the podcast, yes.
Yeah. For us, as covering the team, it would be 5 head coaches and 4 general managers, right?
I wasn't there when my first year was 2012, so Phil Emery.
Okay, so I had the last year Angelo, and then, yeah. So, a lot of turnover, though, is the point there. And here we go again.
With Matt and Ryan.
Run it back with Matt and Ryan. Welcome in. We're going to break it all down. We did have the press conferences yesterday at Hallis Hall, and plenty to react. We heard from Justin Fields, too, which I thought was cool.
I like that.
Yeah, I did, too. Follow us on Twitter, at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Plenty of stuff up there from yesterday to go back and check out, including links to our columns, some videos, all kinds of good stuff on Twitter. So go back and check that out. Make sure you are reading us. Johnsy's on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. And I'm on NBCSportsChicago.com. We both have content up for you to read there. And make sure you're checking out the YouTube channel. Subscribe there, hit the notification buttons, find out when we go live. And our friends at Obvious Shirts already have a Take the North shirt for you to go buy. That didn't take long at all. That thing was up like
instantaneously.
Within an hour. Yeah. So the quote from Ryan
Poles
yesterday. What did he say exactly? We're going to take the North and never give it back.
And never give it back. Strong Game of Thrones reference.
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to do that, but
definitely gave that vibe off.
Yeah, sure did. And the North could be wide open, depending on what plays out here.
Yeah, talk to Matt Schneiderman about that a little bit.
Or Jim Harbaugh could win 4 straight NFC North titles.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Even if that happens, I'm not going to be negative about this.
About what?
About yesterday.
Well,
I'm not going to overreact. I mean, sure some
about
things.
That.
So, if Jim Harbaugh's hot,
I think you could be negative that the Bears didn't even talk to him.
Formally, yes. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens first.
Formally or not formally, like if he's willing to take a flight to Minnesota, with a GM that
here's what bothers me about the Jim Harbaugh stuff. Can I just go on on a little rant here?
Yeah, sure.
Like first he's linked to the Bears, and then he's linked to the Raiders. He's a favorite for the Raiders job. This is the job he wants. Mm-hmm. Then there's a Dolphins report. Stephen Ross connections because he's a big donor for Michigan. Now it's Minnesota. Like it's not a really good rant, but I'm just saying like there's always something with Jim Harbaugh in this process, and you almost wonder at some point if did he get fed up? Did he really not have serious interest? But now he sees coaches whom he thinks maybe he's better than getting jobs, and now the competitive juices are going. Like, what's going on, Jim Harbaugh? Like,
it's a really weird situation.
Yeah,
no question about that.
Like, are you in or are you out? Tell us. Can't wait forever.
I still feel like for the situation the Bears are in, with the connections he has in the organization,
part of me almost thinks he's doing it out of spite.
Oh, maybe.
And I'm not saying this with any like background information or sourced information or whatnot, but here the Bears are introducing or hiring their new coach, their new GM. Just introduced them on Monday. And now Jim Harbaugh is headed to Minneapolis, where there's Kirk Cousins waiting. I don't know. Now now he's fully in the NFL.
Yeah, he does have connections with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, though. And, so there is something there. The Dolphins.
Yeah, that goes back to the 49ers, right?
Yeah. And the Dolphins thing's interesting because, Stephen Ross came out right away and was like, I'm not going to be the guy that takes Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan. But then the thing that really stuck out to me, though, is if you are such a big donor to Michigan and you love the guy that much, if he is going to leave Michigan, there's nothing you can do about that. Wouldn't you want him to come to your team instead of a different team that you compete against elsewhere in the same league?
Yeah, go get your guy.
Right? So, like, if it gets to the point that he's actually going to leave Michigan, I've always felt like, wouldn't Stephen Ross rethink that and be like, well, I better bring him to Miami then?
Yeah. I look at it this way. Like, since covering the Bears, there's always like a handful of teams that you try to find parallels in situations, right? Like in 2017, like the 49ers became one of those teams because the Bears and the 49ers swapped picks. Then the Chiefs and Texans were added because of the quarterback selections. This year, you have potentially what's going on in Minneapolis with Jim Harbaugh, but you also have the situation in New York with Joe Shane as GM and Brian Daboll as their head coach. Like, they were candidates for the Bears jobs. So it's interesting when you try to compare and contrast and figure out if you got the right guy and what situation is going to work well, which ones are going to blow up. Because some of these coaching hires are going to completely blow up, go down.
Most of them probably
yes,
will.
That's how it happens. And the track record for the Giants and the Bears is not good.
Well, and I think
it's just not.
Then that's a good segue back to what we should be talking about, which is the new guys that are here in Chicago, the guys that did sign the contract and they did interview and they did bring in and they did hire. And like, I've sensed a little almost frustration from some fans with what is perceived negativity. I think it's not so much negativity as it's just the media, especially, and obviously the fans too, just been down this road so many times.
That's it.
And there's nothing splashy about what the Bears ended up doing here. After 23 interviews between the GM and the head coach openings, it's just sort of like this. All right, let's see what happens this time, And I think that that's what it should be, to be honest, because there's no reason to just start praising this situation and being like, being quite frankly confident that it's going to work. It
That's
may.
Fair. That's
it may.
fair.
There's actually a lot, and we can get into this. Like, there's a lot of things I like about Ryan Poles from yesterday. I actually do like a lot of the stuff that Matt Eberflus believes in as a coach. But going back to what you were just talking about, Johns, most of the time these things fail.
I believe this when Eberflus was hired, that the past connections to the Lovie Smith regime, like that drew George McCaskey in.
Yeah.
And now I am a firm believer in that. Just everything that Matt Eberflus said. The effort-based system. That's the loaf-based grading system that he's talking about.
Yep.
Rod Marinelli was mentioned. There's just too many parallels.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rod Marinelli joins the staff.
Yeah, either would I. And truthfully, I wrote this as a column the other day. That's okay. That is okay. The Bears know that works. The Bears know that system works. Lovie Smith's Bears weren't the greatest, but they were darn good. Some seasons they look special, especially on defense. They had problems at quarterback, and hopefully that question at quarterback with this regime is answered with Justin Fields, regardless of what happens at offensive coordinator. But I have no problem with them running it back to something they know works. After trying with Mark Trestman, after trying with John Fox, and after trying with Matt Nagy. They know Matt Eberflus' system can work.
But they still got to get the offense right. Because,
as always.
Yeah, we live that.
But if you're right on Justin Fields, if Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are right on Justin Fields, this could work.
Well, and that's the thing. And I had a reassuring conversation with somebody yesterday that told me that while what you're saying is true, that I think that connection back to the Lovie Smith days is what probably gives them some comfort in doing what they've done. They also realize that you can't just win that way. Like, you can win old school football, but you got to do it with these new school players because a lot has changed. A lot has changed. And I had a chance to sit down with Matt Eberflus yesterday. We're going to play the interview for you here. But one of the things he went into that I also thought was reassuring in that conversation is I asked him about the ties back to Lovie Smith and Rod Marinelli. And he admitted, like, yeah, this is what I believe in. But he also said, but we're also going to do this, this, and this. Like, it's not going to be
of course, yeah,
the same thing because that's just not going to work. So
you're talking schematically.
Yes, I'm talking schematically. I'm not worried about
schematic. Of course, it's going to be different. Yes, they're not going to run out cover two, have two deep safeties every single time, and have their corners play curl flat. It's going to be different. I think there's obvious examples of that in Indianapolis. I'm talking about the culture.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, I don't know if all the players are going to buy in.
Then get out.
Well, and that's the thing.
That's how it works.
I'll just tease it. I mean, that was addressed in the interview too, and I actually liked Matt Eberflus's answer on that too. All right, so we'll get to that in a second. I was impressed with Ryan Poles. Let me say that. It wasn't just the press conference, but we had little individual opportunities to sit down with him later. And just like whatever you threw at him, you could tell why he was so good in his interviews. It's not just that he has an answer for every question. He has you could tell he's thought about it. Like he's had a plan. I could just picture these interviews, whatever the Bears threw at him, he was like, oh yeah, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to do. And it was so matter-of-factly, he didn't have to give much thought to it. So that backed up what you've heard about the guy when Scott Pioli's going, on the radio and talking about him or
doing the car wash.
All these people are praising him. I thought he backed that up in many different ways. And he comes off with this he has some confidence about him, right? And I'll just leave it at that. But I think that was encouraging.
So just to give everybody an idea of what happened. So you had that hour-long or, 70-minute long press conference with the media that everybody saw that was broadcast live. Then after that, George McCaskey talked, then Justin Fields talked on the same podium. After that, there were individual interviews where Eberflus and Poles went through the car wash at Hallis Hall. Every station got one-on-ones. There were small groups for interviews with both of them. And I thought in that setting, when the Athletic got to sit down with Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, they were more impressive in those more intimate settings than with everything being broadcast and, 40 eyes on them in the Muggs Auditorium. Ryan Poles was extremely impressive to me, just in terms of him. Like, he has a vision. He knows what he wants this team to be. And I that struck me as important during the press conference, but then to hear him go more in depth about player evaluations, character evaluations, about what he's looking for, what type of brand of football he wants, what type of brand of football player he wants. It's very exact. Very exact. And I came away struck by a young general manager who knows exactly what his team wants to be. And that was a positive for me.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example on that. He was specifically talking to us about offensive linemen and how he evaluates them. And he went so detailed. Like, he was talking about muscle density. Like, it was just so specific in what he looks for and how it's not just like, oh, cool, you can squat, whatever. He has to be built a certain way with the strength in the right places. So that just, I think, is a specific example of what you're talking about when he just seems to have a plan for everything.
And personality too. He gave us this anecdote. You can read about this on The Athletic later on, about how when he looked at the Bears, he did not like seeing Justin Fields not getting helped off the field. Like, and how many games did we sit together in the press box like, no one's helping Justin Fields up? It started immediately in Cleveland.
Remember when we were accused of making too big of a deal of that after that Cleveland game?
Yeah.
Remember when I put that clip out on social media?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And then I thought about the Jermaine Fetty, Tevin Jenkins situation. Finally, you got a guy backing up his quarterback who's had enough. Because as we talked at length on this podcast, teams started taking liberties on Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Within your own division. Tevin Jenkins had enough. Jermaine Fetty had enough of Tevin Jenkins. I mean, something was off. And Ryan Poles saw it, and he did not like it.
That's cool that he talked about that, because that, as we talked about on this podcast, that really bothered me. When there was that clip in Cleveland, and I didn't even notice live. It was back when I went back and watched the tape. And he took that shot, and nobody went to help
that's
the
old school, like football, like basics.
Oh, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we talk about at the high school level all the time.
Grade school level, pee-wee level. Like
that's why it was so insulting. Like even to just a regular football observer. So I'm glad that Ryan Poles talked about that with you guys. All right. Let's get more here on Matt Eberflus. So I had a chance you're talking about the car wash. I was part of the car wash on the Eberflus TV side, because we aired this on our NBC Sports Chicago football after show last night that I did with Olin Crutzen and David Kaplan. So I had about 5 minutes here with the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. So Matt Eberflus, new head coach of the Chicago Bears. I'm fascinated with the trend in football in recent years of focusing on offensive-minded head coaches, pairing them with quarterbacks. Right. And you've been getting interviews now for a few seasons, have been dealing with that a little bit. Yeah. And here's your opportunity to get some love here as a defensive-minded head coach. Yeah. Where do you think that is still an advantage to be a defensive-minded head coach over what has been a trend in the NFL the last few years?
Yeah, I think it's a big advantage because you have a scope of the whole overall team, in terms of special teams, defense, and then offense. How can you help the offense, and give the quarterback a dual education? So how can he learn the offensive system as we build this offensive system around him, but in the same regard, learn what the defense is trying to do to you, coverage-wise, front-wise, pressure-wise, and what are the tells that I can give to the offensive staff, number one, and also give to the quarterback. So you're really learning Spanish and Latin at the same time.
That's something that Justin Fields actually pointed out to us today, that a defensive-minded head coach can get in there with you, point out some coverage things that maybe you wouldn't normally get from just a defensive coordinator on the staff. But then he also talked about how the offensive coordinator now, he's fully invested in the offense. There's really no other responsibilities that come with being a head coach. So how does that help too?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, you think about the most important position on the field is every player. People always say it's the quarterback, and it is, because he has the ball in his hands, but the development of every player is as important. But I think your point is well taken, that he can focus solely on the quarterback, and I can focus on the whole, encompassing the whole team with playing the right way.
What did you learn about Ryan Poles then in that process? Because look, this is a situation here in Chicago with a young quarterback in Justin Fields where a GM, especially a young GM for the first time, could have said, no, I want that offensive-minded head coach to pair with the young quarterback like so many teams have done. So what did you learn about Ryan's approach and being more open-minded to the idea of a defensive
head coach? Yeah, I think he has great conviction for what he wants the football team to look like, and it was in line with my vision. So it was easy. And I think he said it in the interviews that when you know, you know. And he knew. And we hit it off right away. We had that 4 or 5 hour meeting together, and it seemed like it was 30 minutes. And it was really good to start that relationship.
You've talked a lot about your HITS principle.
Yeah.
What is the key to getting, especially the veteran players who've been in this league for a while, this is what they do for a living, to buy into the type of acronym philosophies that you might see at lower levels of football, and you've coached at the college level too.
Yeah. I would say that the why, education and why, and this is how we're going to go about it, and this is our standards of performance, and we're going to hold people to those standards of performance, and then just give them the facts, and I think they buy into it. And it's not for everybody. Believe me, it's not for everybody. There's been players that once in a while, hey, this is not for me. Okay, we can work things out, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. Okay, but it's going to be worth it.
How do you explain the difference between hustle and intensity?
Yeah, so the hustle part is actually the how we're working to the ball or blocking on the backside as a receiver, and how we're doing working down the line, offensive lineman going down the field to get an extra block. That's all hustle. Intensity is measured by hitting and physical style. Number one, the physical side of it, and then intensity is also measured by mental focus. Are we operating the right way? Do we have under 5 mental errors per group per game? That's pretty good if you can pull that off, as being a coach yourself. Yeah. So there's 2 things there. So yeah, that's how you measure them.
So I've been here long enough that it goes back to the Lovie Smith days, and when Rod Marinelli, who you talked a little bit about today, is one of your mentors, was also here in Chicago. How do you explain what a loaf is? Because isn't that something that you used to?
Yeah. Well, there's a few ways. I'll just give you a few of them. So, going full speed, not full speed, is one of them. Getting passed up by another player. So if you get passed, like you and I run into the ball, I pass you up, or you probably pass me up. But that's another one. And not finishing to the pile, not finishing physical at the pile. That's another way we measure it. So, but there's a couple more than that. But it's a big part of what we do.
So a couple of those coaches I just named, they had a lot of success here defensively. How much in what is your defensive philosophy goes back to some of that success that fans here in Chicago would know well, be able to relate to?
Yeah, a lot of it goes back to that. We're all about upfield pressure defense, creating negative plays for the offense, and then getting takeaways. We're going to be a zone match, and we'll play some man, and we did that. We've done that before, but it's going to be all about the takeaways and being physical.
And then the last thing I have for you is fans try to get to know who Ryan Poles is. It sounds like your relationship goes back a little bit, a couple years, but really it seems like this is you're still getting to know him a little bit too, probably on a more intimate level, if that's fair. What should fans know about what you've learned about him already, a 36-year-old GM doing this for the first time?
Yeah, I would say smart, organized, detailed, listens to his instincts, okay, and a really good talent evaluator.
Johns, one thing I liked in there was his admission that not everybody's going to buy in. Like, you have to be aware of that. I think if you're going to, I think some of this criticism of like his hits principle is a little overblown. Part of it's because there's been coaches that have come through here and their acronyms don't even make sense.
What's his name?
Tim Beckman.
Broccolivo.
Oh, Broccolivo, yes.
You got that? You don't have it queued up?
I don't, but if you could stall for 20 seconds, I'll get it. Yeah, there's a lot of examples of this stuff not working. And I totally understand like why we're talking about professional athletes here, that you're probably going to get some guys in there rolling their eyes. So as long as you're aware of that.
But at the same time, how often do you hear professional athletes say, at least the greatest ones, the ones who want to be great, they want to be coached hard. They want coaches who are invested in them, Yeah. Coach, you know what I'm talking about? Like, how often have we heard that on the radio? Like, so if you have concerns about this effort-based system, this HITS principle, this loaf-based system that's going to be installed at Halisaw, ask the Lovey guys about it. Ask them. Of course, there's flexibility to all certain things, but it worked, and I'll stand by what some of the best players that we know that are in the media have said, that players want to be coached hard. At least the great ones do.
Yeah, I just. And that's one thing I keep hearing about, that he is really going to be coaching them hard.
You got to get your track shoes on.
I'm not going to get mine on.
No, I got a bad knee. Man, you are having problems here. If you're watching on YouTube, Adam Hoge is frantically trying to plug in his iPad. You got it on your iPad?
No, it's not
still?
even that. It's that it wasn't even on the iPad, which is a problem.
We're going to kill it, guys. That's an acronym.
That's the
start
was Chuck
of it.
Pagano too.
Yeah, he did have it. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? We're just having internet problems. We already had the internet cut out once during this podcast. So, this is the...
Technically,
we use the word OSCE.
Oh, there's
technically
something.
we did not, because Matt Schneiderman is coming after this. But now you're showing everybody how the sausage is made. Matt Schneiderman was interviewed for the segment.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that the problem is my internet cut out during that interview. So I didn't even know that you guys had already discussed that. So I don't even know if our listeners would have known that. So I was just revealing it in advance.
We use the word OSCE not just because of the word OSCE or that it's a battle cry of the University of Illinois, but it also stands for something. That stance that we use that word for is our success equals the knowledge of being, the knowledge of being a great student athlete on and off the football field, understanding how to be supportive, how to understand to be successful in the classroom. The E stands for effort, giving all out effort in everything you do each and every day. And then the last E stands for energy. Energy, being a positive influence on the people around you, having that belief and that system of as being a teammate, being a brother, the band of brothers.
No. Is that Tim Beckman?
Yes. Like, how are you even supposed to follow that?
Well,
what else? Go ahead, I'm listening.
That's why Matt Eberflus's H.I.T.S philosophy is different. That's an actual word that applies to football. OSCE's just made up crap.
Well, and it also, like, it at least makes sense to me when you talk about playing defense. The one thing I did ask him about in there, because I was curious, like, how he defines the difference between hustle and intensity. But you heard in the interview, like, it made sense to me how he did it.
We're going to be simple. We're going to play fast. We're going to play hard. We're going to kill it, okay? This is a great acronym, you guys, right? Kill it. Keep it likable and learnable.
There it is.
Again, though, why do you need an acronym for that? Keep it likable and learnable. Like, I understand an acronym when you're like, this is how we're going to play with these 4 things. We're going to hustle. We're going to do it intensely. We're going to take the ball away, and we're going to be smart.
Quite simple to understand.
Like, what is keep it likable and learn? Like, that's so I like when you first hear that stuff, I understand why people are rolling their eyes, but I think this is a different situation. I hope it is. Otherwise,
philosophy is a kill philosophy. Keep it likable and learnable. So that's an acronym for not. You know what I'm talking about. Keep it likable and learnable.
It's like when they start trying to explain it and they can't.
You know what I'm talking about.
Uh-oh.
But Eberflus explained it well.
Yeah.
He struck me as a guy who's been around a lot of different coaching philosophies, but's also like read a lot of coaching books. A lot. Like he kept going back to the well for like more coaching stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like re-listen to that press conference. Like he keeps going back. He keeps pulling out more like coaching references and coaching, not acronyms, but you know what I'm talking about. Phrasing, coach speak. And I'm okay with that. Because he seemed to have more than Matt Nagy, at least. That's the impression I got as I'm watching him live from the Muggs Auditorium.
Yeah, look, he came off like, you know, the footballiest of all football coaches. But that's okay as long as the players buy in.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. You know what? That's his job.
You know who didn't? Mark Trestman. He did not come off as the footballiest of football coaches.
No, he did not.
Grow the man was his phrasing.
But he loved ball. We know that.
Yeah.
Okay, now our next partner is a pretty cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you all agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution that actually tastes good. You'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into this flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Adams. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Adams to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Clients demand an instant response, but now more than ever, businesses are spread thin. If you're losing leads from visitors to your website or missing calls that could grow your business, you need to delegate those frontline conversations to the best virtual receptionist service, Smith AI. Smith AI provides businesses with award-winning virtual receptionists who handle your calls, chats, and texts to unlock new business at a fraction of the cost of hiring an in-house staff. Smith AI is not your average receptionist service. Since 2015, they've combined the best receptionists across North America with AI technology for superior business communications and customer engagement. Their friendly and professional agents can screen leads using your custom criteria, schedule appointments on your calendar, and call back leads who complete your form. Work uninterrupted, run your business with less stress, and get more leads from your marketing efforts. Smith AI pays for itself and then some with all the new clients their receptionists help you win. Never miss another lead. Boost revenue, increase your focus at work, and keep your staffing costs down. It's as simple as forwarding your calls to Smith AI. Plans start at just $240 a month, and our listeners will save $100 when you sign up using our promo code ADAM at Smith.ai. Visit smith.ai to read 5-star reviews and be sure to use our code ADAM, ADAM, to save $100 at sign up. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Let's learn more about the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, who was not involved in the press conferences yesterday, but still an incredibly important hire for Justin Fields. To do that, we bring in our guy, Matt Schneiderman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic. All right, let's bring in our guy, Matt Schneiderman here, who we always go to when there's Packer things to discuss. And this is a big one. This is a big Getsy, as Kevin Fishbane said. I'm not taking credit for that. I'm blaming that on Kevin.
Why would you want credit for that anyway?
Yeah, you don't want it.
That's why I'm passing it off. But, okay, so Matt Eberflus
Sorry, Matt. Sorry. Thanks for coming, Matt, but that was just, gee.
If you want to leave, you can. All right. What do we need to know about Luke Getsy? I'm going to start with this very more specific question. Why didn't he go to Denver with Hackett? Just play calling?
Because he wouldn't have been able to call plays there. Regardless of if it's a rival, regardless of where else he could have gotten that step up from QB coach / passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator. Hackett said at his introductory press conference that he's calling the plays in Denver. LaFleur is calling the plays in Green Bay, and obviously in Chicago, there's a defensive head coach. So Getsy will call the plays in Chicago. And as you guys know, that ability to call plays will do wonders for his resume. I mean, maybe it's unfair for coaches, but when it comes time to be a head coach, and I think that's the path Getsy eventually wants to get to, having that play calling experience on your resume is invaluable. So even though it's the rivals to the southeast, I think he couldn't pass that up.
So the Bears are essentially hiring, in terms of offensive minds, the number 3 guy from the Packers, right? Like just in terms of the hierarchy. I mean, and I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is. Yeah. I mean, so maybe number 4 if you want to include Rodgers in that conversation. So, just based on your experiences with Getsy, whether it's him as a quarterbacks coach or being promoted to pass game coordinator, like what do you think? Like, what type of scheme? Like, if you want to talk scheme, we could do that. I'm just curious. Just like, what are the Bears getting in the Packers' number 4 offensive-minded guy?
I think something that stood out to me, and more so than anything I can say, it's the testimonies of the guys he's coached. I remember before the Packers played the Ravens, I believe it was week 14 this year, we were talking to Davante Adams, and I asked Davante Adams about a guy named Keith Williams, who's the Ravens passing game coordinator, was Davante's position coach at Fresno State, his longtime personal coach. And I asked him, is Keith the guy that has had the most influence on you? And he started by saying, yeah, of course. But then he said, but one guy I want to shout out is Luke Getsy. And I'm like, Luke Getsy, Davante's in his prime now, but Getsy's not his position coach. Luke Getsy was the Packers wide receivers coach back in 2016 and 17, which, if you remember, Davante totally flopped in his first 2 years in the league in 14 and 15. And when he started getting with Getsy in 16 and 17 were when he started really having, his breakout seasons. And Davante said, I want to give a lot of credit to Luke Getsy. He's been an unsung hero in my development. So my point is, it's not just, the fourth in command, the quarterback coach for someone who probably doesn't even need a quarterback coach. It's a guy who understands all aspects of the offense, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, a guy who's going to bring a deep passing game to Chicago. And if my mentions are correct, Bears fans want Justin Fields to take some more shots downfield. Aaron Rodgers, this is more of the intangible side of it, but Aaron Rodgers was giving us his qualifications for a head coach. And he said, you got to have the ability to command a room and earn the respect of everyone in that room. And that's probably easier said than done. And he said Getsy and Hackett at the time, when he hadn't gotten a job yet, really do that well. So I think just Getsy's knowledge of the entire offense, his experience as a receivers coach. He's a MAC winning quarterback himself, quarterbacked Akron in 2005 to the MAC championship. Now he's a trusted confidant of Aaron Rodgers, not anymore, but just a wide breadth of knowledge with the offense, and he's got those intangibles too that you want.
But that can't be easy, just in terms of earning Aaron Rodgers' confidence, earning his trust, becoming his confidant, becoming one of those guys, is it?
And that's why I say, what Rodgers and Adams say, arguably the two best at what they do on planet Earth, probably means more than anything schematically or whatever. I mean, Aaron Rodgers gets up there and stumps for Getsy every single time he talks about, his development. And Aaron Rodgers is he always talks about Tom Clements, his former quarterback coach here in Green Bay. And he speaks about Getsy in the same vein. There's nothing really at this point in Aaron Rodgers' career that a coach can tell him that he hasn't already seen a million times. But something about this Packers staff that has helped Rodgers is them delegating responsibility. And maybe I don't think that's something he entirely felt at the end of the McCarthy tenure, but something LaFleur, Hackett, and also Getsy, it's kind of that three-headed monster, since LaFleur really delegates a lot of coaching responsibilities to those two guys. They've given Rodgers freedom and given him, the willpower to kind of do whatever he wants, and included him almost as a fourth coach.
You should be following Matt Schneiderman on Twitter at Matt Schneiderman. He does such a great job covering the Packers for The Athletic. Matt, one of the reasons why this hire is so fascinating is, there's a lot of optimism, I think, because of where he's coming from and working with Aaron Rodgers, but like schematically, I don't know that we know what to expect. You got his Joe Moorhead connections. You got obviously what he's learned under LaFleur. and the Shanahan principles there. But obviously the Packers have tweaked so much of that because they have Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. So what do you think we're going to see? And I realize that you might not know the answer. But I get the sense that he's just going to come down here and try to build a sort of a new offense, his offense, around Justin Fields.
Yeah, if we're looking for clues, I think you can look to Nathaniel Hackett's introductory press conference in Denver the other day. Someone asked him schematically, what is this going to look like here? Because the Broncos have been terrible on offense for the past half decade. And he's essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but said, the groundwork of this offense is going to be the outside zone run, and that's going to set up the play action pass. And that's what the Packers offense pretty much is. They're heavy on outside zone run, and Aaron Rodgers is really good at play action pass. And you got to have a running game, obviously, to set that up. And I think the Bears do have that. And you got to have a quarterback who knows how to sell the play action fake. And those are two foundational pieces of this Packers offense, having that Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and then having Aaron Rodgers who can really sell anything. And I think that's going to be a huge part of what the Bears do, just looking for clues, because obviously Getsy comes from that LaFleur Hackett tree that we're starting to see now. So a lot of deep passes off that play action. We've seen that a lot from Rodgers. So I don't know. Does that entice Bears fans? Is that different than what you guys have been seeing the past couple of years?
Well, who's catching the ball, number one?
Is Allen Robinson a free agent?
He is. He is. And we'll see what happens there. Darnell Mooney is, QB 2. I mean, a wide receiver 2, and they need to upgrade at that position.
Davante Adams is a free agent.
I saw that report. He's won $30 million a year, something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man. So when you look Hackett's going to Denver, and I know there's the Rodgers rumors and whatnot. I don't know what to believe right now. I don't know what you believe right now, but he's got a quarterback situation to figure out there. Getsy has Justin Fields. Knowing what you know about Getsy, how do you think he feels about Justin Fields, given his want to, or at least the Bears want to, for those deep shots?
It'll be interesting. I only obviously watched Fields play 2 games this year. And obviously with young quarterbacks, you want them to conquer, the first 2 sections of the field in front of them before kind of attacking that third one. It's going to be interesting to see how Getsy implements this system in Chicago, because especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves, we're really going to start to see how much of this Packers offensive success, I should say, under Matt LaFleur and Hackett and Getsy was just Rodgers. We're going to see if Rodgers doesn't go to Denver, can Hackett coach an offense without Aaron Rodgers? If Rodgers leaves, can LaFleur coach Jordan Love? And with Getsy in Chicago, since I'm pretty sure Rodgers isn't going to Chicago, can Getsy help develop a quarterback that's not Aaron Rodgers? Will he emphasize those deep shots a lot, even though he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers, or is he going to cater more to Fields' skill set? Get some stuff where he moves the pocket more. The Packers don't really have much where they have plays where they move the pocket by design, because that's not Rodgers. It's more, he improvises, and when he is outside the pocket, it's not planned. Justin Fields is obviously a guy that you want to move the pocket for, especially considering the Bears' offensive line situation. You don't just want to have him stand back there like they did for Rodgers. So as much as we want to read into what Hackett says and what the Packers did, I think because of who he has at quarterback, because of who else the Bears have on the offensive line and at receiver, I don't know how much of that Packers LaFleur Hackett influence we'll see on Getsy. And that's going to be fascinating to see, is how much of kind of Getsy's own spin on things we see in Chicago.
All right, let's go back to Davante Adams for a second. Are they going to franchise tag him? Can they? Because I know the cap situation is not great.
Yeah, they can. And it seems like they're going to, if reports are accurate. It doesn't seem, the last I heard was a while ago about this situation, when they had obviously broken off extension talks right before training camp, because Frank Bauer, his agent, and Davante Adams both wanted Adams to be the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history in terms of average annual value. Now, DeAndre Hopkins isn't making $28 million a year right now, but the way the Texans and Cardinals kind of combined to do his contract, his average annual value was $27.25 million. So the Packers did not want to make Davante Adams a $27.5 million per year wide receiver. At least that's what Brian Gutekunst said. But then I asked Brian Gutekunst during training camp about it, and he said he thinks Davante does deserve to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league. So I said, so you two have two different definitions of what highest paid means. So what's your definition? And he declined to answer that. So my guess would be they franchise tag him. I am still sticking by my prediction that they tag and trade Adams to Denver and trade Rodgers to Denver, and they both go play for Hackett and possibly Justin Outen, who is Packers tight ends coach, who looks like he's going to be going to Denver as the offensive coordinator, who doesn't call plays. And my reasoning for that is, yes, Aaron Rodgers gives the Packers the best chance to win. Yes, they can get Rodgers and Adams both still on the team and Devondre Campbell while forming a Super Bowl contender around them and complying with the cap. But I have to think there's this sense around Green Bay of, yes, we're tight against the cap. And no matter how good Aaron Rodgers plays in the regular season, it may not just work. It may just not work out in the playoffs. We've seen that the last 2 years, whether that's because of how Rodgers plays, how defense plays, how special teams plays. It's been a combination of all those for their last two playoff exits. And it might just be time to start fresh. And I'm interested to hear and this is the last thing I'll say. I know I'm rambling, but last offseason, Brian Gutekunst was steadfast in his insistence that he was not trading Aaron Rodgers. We have not talked to him yet this season. His postseason press conference normally a week after he's at the Senior Bowl. So hopefully we'll talk to him this week or next. I'm interested to see what he says about his willingness to trade Rodgers this season, because I know there were the reports in the offseason about if Rodgers wants to be traded this offseason, the Packers will help facilitate that. That was part of the terms of him coming back. But then Rodgers said at that long press conference he gave on when training camp started that he doesn't have control over what happens, over where he goes. So I don't know if it'll be a mutual parting of ways, whether the Packers will trade him away, but I think regardless, this ultimately ends at Rodgers and Adams being a package deal to Denver, and what the Packers would get in return. 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and Jerry Jeudy maybe is a possibility. So it'll be fascinating.
I mean, you ask for ownership stakes. I mean, there's so much to be involved with. That'd be such a. I don't know if you can even articulate what that would mean in the NFC North, where you have regime changes. Mm-hmm. One, you just had it in Detroit. You have it this year with Minnesota and the Bears, and what that would do in terms of Rodgers leaving.
Well, the Lions would be
North,
the most stable team in the division.
Yeah, Dan Campbell
is amazing.
But
where I was going with that Adams stuff is because, like, you bring up that Getsy connection to Davante,
right?
When you say tag and trade, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I can't imagine they would want him to go sign with the Bears if he has that connection with Getsy. And the Bears have more cap space this year. They have Allen Robinson coming out of contract and off the books. So, I mean, that would make a lot of sense to me. And if I'm the Packers, I would do what I can to avoid that happening.
Yeah, Albert Breer brought up an interesting point when he was on the Dan Patrick show yesterday. Davante Adams can, play hardball with the Packers. In order for them to tag and trade him, he has to sign that franchise tag. He can just not sign it and then go to free agency. But you risk, and would you want to give the Packers back, something in return for not extending you? I don't think that would be a problem. And yes, Davante Adams probably wants to hit the open market. But then again, you could have an agreement in place, even if you're traded, that your new team would give you an extension right when you get traded. And the Broncos have plenty of cap space.
That's what happened with Khalil Mack, by the way.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened with Khalil Mack.
Exactly. And I was covering the Raiders at the time. I remember that. And that trade broke at like 5 a.m. Pacific time. So I wasn't even up for that for like the next hour. I'll be interested to see how much of Davante's process is just following the money, as he should, because he's earned it, or how much of it is following a quarterback that can help him solidify that Hall of Fame resume that he's kind of built over the last half decade. If the Bears offer him the most money, and let's say the Broncos say, we'll extend you, but for maybe $1 million or $2 million less per year, but you can play with Aaron Rodgers in Denver, what's he going to do? My guess would be he goes to Denver, because I don't know. I'm sure. Look, I think Justin Fields is going to be a really good quarterback in this league, but will Davante Adams put his, age 30, age 31 years, kind of maybe the last couple of years of his prime, in the hands of a quarterback who is not yet proven in this league? I think that'll be interesting to see. Definitely something to watch, though. I've seen the Bears photoshops with Davante Adams. I don't think it happens, but it's a possibility.
So are you committed to the idea then that they're a package deal? Rodgers and Adams, like wherever they go, they're going together. Is that something that you strongly believe, or do you see a situation where they split? They seem pretty in line with things, from their last dance message to even, every interaction I see on TV.
Yeah, I think there are two realistic possibilities, and that's they both get traded to Denver or they both stay in Green Bay. Now, of course, there's a possibility that if Rodgers stays in Green Bay, Adams is staying in Green Bay. But if Rodgers goes to Denver or somewhere else, I think there's a possibility Davante goes to Vegas to play with Derek Carr, who threw him 24 touchdowns in one season at Fresno State. They're best friends. They've both talked about how great it would be to play together again. That's the only possibility I could see where Rodgers and Adams aren't together next season, where Rodgers goes somewhere else and then Adams signs with Vegas in free agency, if he gets there.
All right, Matt, one last question for you, because we've talked about this at length. I don't know if you know this, but at length on this podcast. We, on the Hoge Jahns podcast, are full believers that Jordan Love sucks. Tell us differently. What would the Packers look like with Jordan Love if Rodgers is gone, Adams is gone? Like, who are the Green Bay Packers then with Jordan Love?
I can't sit here and tell you that he doesn't stink. Now, I'll add this as a caveat. I don't think it's entirely fair to judge what he'll become off of, some brisk preseason action. Didn't have his rookie preseason because of COVID, and then he got injured this preseason, missed about a game and a half, if I remember correctly, and then was thrust into the starting lineup when Rodgers tested positive for COVID and went in and had to go into Arrowhead of all places, and he played terribly. And then played the second half against Detroit, didn't play too well either. And his 62-yard touchdown pass came on a tight end screen. So is he good in practice? I don't know. We get to watch 20 minutes and they're throwing routes on air. The Packers, at least publicly, have not given any indication about where he is. Rodgers at this point in his career was nothing special either. We've seen what he's become. But nothing I've seen from Jordan Love yet has given me any indication, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, that he can take the reins over of this franchise. Now, professionally, would I say he sucks? I don't know if I'd go there yet. I'd just say I haven't seen anything special from him yet, or anything to instill confidence in the fan base that he can at least make this team a Super Bowl contender. Listen, we saw what just happened with the 49ers. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is any good. Teams can contend for Super Bowls with really good running games and really good defenses. And if the Packers trade Rodgers, they can build a team that has a mediocre quarterback, if Jordan Love becomes that, with a really good running game with Jones and Dillon and a really good defense. So they can still contend and they can still be the NFC North favorites with Jordan Love. I just don't think he's there yet. And I know Bears and Lions and Vikings fans are salivating about that, and rightfully so, because Jordan Love has shown us nothing to have confidence about him yet.
Well, if you're telling Bears fans they can have a division where their choice of quarterbacks is Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, my guy Kirk Cousins, or Justin Fields, I think Chicago would sign up for that, Matt.
I think they would, as they should.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. We lost Hoge. Apparently, he has an internet outage that just conveniently happened in the middle of our interview. But thank you as always, my friend. We'll see you in Indianapolis.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, be sure to follow Matt on Twitter and check out his Packers stuff on theathletic.com, Coast. If that Packers stuff that he predicted happens, I don't think anybody's going to be more red than you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Peloton is here to push you further with the Peloton Bike and their Peloton Bike Plus. There are new classes, new music, and new ways to keep your workouts fun and motivating. Peloton has workouts for every goal, day, and mood. I'm a big fan of all their classic rock rides. Jen Sherman and Emma Lovell are two of my favorite instructors. You can always find 10, 20, 30, and 45-minute rides with songs from the 80s, 90s, and even today's hits. I've done the Beatles rides and their Queen ride. Love them both. Peloton just offers so much. It's easy to stay motivated when there's something new every single day, including core workouts, arm and shoulder workouts. Their yoga workouts are always a great addition, while their stretch routines can really round out your day after long rides. But there's more. Peloton is also stepping into the ring with its newest discipline, boxing. No gloves are needed. It's a fast, furious, and fun workout with Peloton instructors in your corner. So stay in shape and stay motivated while having fun with bike workouts, yoga, meditation, dance cardio, and so much more. That's ONEPELOTON.com. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh has fit and wholesome recipes for satisfying and nutritious meals that you can feel good about, with 6 recipes per week to choose from, including low-calorie and carb-conscious options. HelloFresh offers the flexibility you need to easily customize your order online or in their app. Easily change your delivery day, food preferences, and plan size, or skip a week whenever you need to. HelloFresh offers 50 menu and market items to choose from every week, including veggie, fit and wholesome, family-friendly, and gourmet options, providing plenty of variety. I know for myself, I'm always trying to stay in shape and eat healthy, and HelloFresh fits all of my needs. So go to HelloFresh.com/16Adam22 and use code 16Adam22 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/16Adam22 and use code 16Adam22 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Well, welcome back, Adam.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back. You missed the Jordan Love conversation. I know you're disappointed about that.
My guy, Jordan Love.
Our guy.
So did my internet really cut out, or did I just ghost you guys during the Jordan Love discussion?
Maybe.
You'll never know.
You were gone for like 20 minutes. Again, we're showing everybody how the podcast is made today.
That was crazy. All right. Well, good stuff there, I thought, though, on the Packers. Like, this situation, there's these two teams are going to be linked throughout this offseason.
Fluid.
Yes, absolutely. What a prediction by Schneidman, too. Adams and Rodgers.
I was not expecting that. I thought we were going to talk a lot about Getsy, and then, by the end of it, Matt Schneiderman's predicting the complete implosion of NFC North.
Remember when the Broncos could have drafted Justin Fields? That was good times.
Come on, John. Now wait.
All right. Well, we need to get out of here. We got to go talk to Frank Reich. Talking to Chicago media today about Matt Eberflus. So we'll have more on that Thursday. We'll be back Thursday. Plenty more to cover this week. Hoge Jahns, appreciate everybody listening, viewing, however you're doing that. Check us out on YouTube if you're not watching. Follow us on Twitter. Read us. Thank you so much. We will talk to you on Thursday.
See ya.
The Packers, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, go Bears.